So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and let's talk about the Galaxy S25 Edge versus the iPhone 16 Pro Max a few days later. I'm going to go ahead and look at the sides here first to show you how thin that Galaxy S25 Edge really is, and it's pretty phenomenal. Although the iPhone 16 Pro Max is not no super thick phone by no means, it's definitely so much thicker than the S25 Edge. You can definitely tell for sure. It almost feels like almost twice as thick in my honest opinion, but it's not quite twice as thick. It's probably more like 50-ish% thicker, not a full 100% thicker. We'll talk now about the prices. So you're going to pay around $1,099 for the Galaxy S25 Edge. So that's pretty up there. I mean, you could find the S25 Ultra in some places for the same price. And while a lot of people are saying, why not just get the Ultra? It's got a better camera setup, which it does. Longer battery life, which you're right again, it does. And also, it's just likely the more better phone with the S Pen. Just the whole package just seems better. But the hidden benefit is in the day-to-day feel. There's just nothing like this on the market that has a flagship display, flagship camera, and a 200 megapixel camera. This has a incredibly lightweight, thin build that feels as light as some of the smallest phones that used to exist. This is crazy, insanely, pretty impressive in terms of what they've been able to pull off. However, not everybody sold on it because of the weaker battery, but for $100 more, is the iPhone 16 Pro Max worth it? We're going to pay around $1199 for this one. And I gotta say, it definitely is going to be worth it over the S25 Edge because, you know, it's going to have a triple camera, it's going to have better resale value, and a bigger battery. So I think the iPhone is worth more money because you can sell it for more later, but doesn't mean it's the better phone for you. So let's talk about the body a few days later. So I'm going to give this one hands down to the S25 Edge. What I've noticed over the past few days is mostly coming down to when I pick it up, it almost feels like a feather in my hand. This is hard to explain on camera because you can't actually feel it through what I'm trying to visually show you. But I'm sure you can tell just by looking on camera that having a build that thin, you can't expect it to be too heavy, can you? One of the things I don't like is that the camera sticks way off of the body of the Galaxy S25 Edge, which can create a rock on the table, but there are plenty of cases that fix that problem very easily. But this also does have IP68. It definitely will not snap in half. It's pretty durable. And in addition to that, you still get a razor thin bezel around the edges, and you get a smaller punch hole. While it does look similar to the Ultra in shape, it's a little bit smaller and a more comfortable 6.7 inch. So I would say overall, I like the body, the look, the feel more on this phone than the 16 Pro Max. Now, the 16 Pro Max, the reason why I say that is because while I love the thin bezels, this phone feels bulkier than some previous Maxes. And yeah, for good reason. We have good battery life. And it's still a really beautiful device, but it's just so played out. Like we've seen it so many times, this design, that it just doesn't feel fresh. The S25 Edge feels extremely fresh to use while still being durable. And that brings me on to display. I'd pick the Edge here as well. Reason why? It has a higher pixel density. We're looking at QHD plus resolution available for here. And it's not just that, it's also very well tuned. You do have similar features. You also have a vivid mode, a natural mode, and overall the display to me just looks a bit sharper, which is what I tend to prefer in my panels. In addition, it still has that nice vividness, and it still has razor thin bezels. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, very well tuned, almost identical quality, but it's definitely slightly less sharp. If you get up close, you can definitely tell. But it is the bigger 6.9. That doesn't necessarily make it better, though. It definitely doesn't refresh as fast with its ProMotion display. I do feel like the Edge tends to refresh just a little bit quicker. It just feels like it runs along this display a little bit faster. In addition, I like the display modes that we're going to get on the Samsung. So the ability to go into the landscape mode and use it like that. And then also the ability to go ahead and take advantage of our split screen multitasking on board here is definitely very useful. I mean, you could do this on a lot of Android phones, but this one is really quite good because it's thin, it's light, and still has great multitasking power. And you can also beam this display up to DeX wirelessly, which is a really nice addition as well. So to me, this is going to be the panel that I like more, but the iPhone is still an incredibly enjoyable panel. It just feels a little bit more basic in its functionality and its usefulness day to day, with the dynamic island still irritating me a bit when I'm watching content and I want to pinch in. I really don't like that too much. And I really don't like how I can't split apps or turn this thing in the landscape. It's really irritating me. So hopefully Apple tends to bring that next week. We'll have to see. I've been waiting years for that feature, but still hasn't come to us just yet. Now, from a software perspective, the iPhone and the Galaxy S25 Edge are basically a tie. It really just comes down to what you like. I would put the iPhone ahead of the Edge when it comes to software looks. I think it's more clean, a little bit more refined. And also, while it's not, people are getting tired of hearing the same, oh, it's polished. What do you mean, dude? Well, a lot of the applications look nicer. I like visually how iOS runs along. It just feels more natural to me, and it kind of like runs more in the background. I feel like I have to use my mind a little bit more, if you will, to like think about where certain submenus and things are in the Samsung. Even after using it all these years, I just feel like I'm like a little bit more overwhelmed, a little bit more distracted using the One UI. It's still really good. I love it. And if you like to have a lot of stimulation, a lot of customization, a lot of fun with your phone, this is like the Swiss Army knife of devices. Like, it has all the tools you would ever want, except this one doesn't have S Pen, but the customization is there. You can use Good Lock just like you can use on other Samsung devices. You can customize to your heart's content. But if you want simple, clean lines, you want simple software updates, you want really good ecosystem matching up, I think the iPhone is still slightly better. But Samsung is really doing quite well, and they're doing really good these days for sure. So it's going to come down to just that personal preference. And One UI definitely still has some work to do, but it's visually much nicer than it used to be, and all of those, and it just seems more consistent than before. So you can't go wrong either way. It's a tie. I'm calling this section a straight up tie. Now, some people aren't going to like that, but that's okay. And Good Lock causes that issue sometimes. But performance, the Edge takes this one. We did a speed test, and the Edge was winning almost every single app. And I can confirm day to day, it seems to always run fast. I find iOS a little bit more buggy. The performance on the 16 Pro Max, just a little bit more buggy in the day to day. If I'm being honest with you, it really does feel that way. But the Samsung just runs along really well. I will say though that the battery will take a big hit if you're playing things like Call of Duty, and things of this sort will really drain the battery on this 3900 milliamp. But it can run it very well with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, with the Adreno 830. This phone just runs so fast. Not that the iPhone doesn't either. The iPhone runs amazingly well, but it just kind of chugs along just a little bit slower. I think it's the animations. But overall, iOS seems to go for more of a slow down, one app at a time, take your time, enjoy the experience. It kind of feels like that. But sometimes I don't want to enjoy the slow experience. Sometimes I want the speed, and Samsung is going to take it there. So the Edge edges out a few days later the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, when it does come to the area of camera, I would actually give this one to the iPhone as well, just simply because it does have a telephoto camera, so it's going to still be worth it over the Edge. In addition, very consistent results, faster speeds to get into the camera. I love the camera control button for speed, not so much for functionality. We don't really need it for that. Some people called it a gimmick, but it's not really a gimmick when it comes to getting your photos, and we're getting a bug right here just after I said consistency. I'm glad that happened live on camera to show you that the iPhones aren't perfect, but definitely I found more consistency in the results on the iPhone, as well as very good social media uploads, really solid front-facing camera. In addition to that, we do have really good video on the front and rear, almost unbeatable. You know this in social media apps, just very good. So iPhone to me is a bit ahead of the Edge. The Edge does have the 200 megapixel though, so if you want to blow up that photo and print it, it's going to be better. For sure, you can tweak it right here. I like the software layout a little bit more, but I found some shutter lag on this phone a couple days ago. I was trying it out and didn't like that. You do have a lot of features down here, and really you can go to town with Pro Video, Log. You can even monitor your audio. But because they did not put the great zoom, it's not overly impressive here on the Galaxy Edge. So Galaxy S25 Edge. So definitely you still get some of those like softer looking photos on the results. But at the end of the day, you're still getting a premium top tier camera, at least on the main sensor. So it stands toe to toe with the iPhone, but I wouldn't say it surpasses it. Simply because it's not the Ultra. The Ultra is the one to me that surpasses the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But in the area of battery life, it's the iPhone 16 Pro Max by a country mile. I found after a few days that I just couldn't match the iPhone 16 Pro Max on the Edge. It's just not even close. This phone can last nearly 4 to 5 hours longer in my experience over the S25 Edge. The Edge is definitely that type of phone that's going to last till about 8 p.m. if you wake up early in the morning on regular use. Heavier use, you're charging this during the day for sure. But just moderate to semi-heavy use, you'll make it a full day, but you're not going more than that for sure. And if you're used to a bigger brick phone with more battery, you are definitely going to notice some big battery drop-offs with the Galaxy S25 Edge. It's very noticeable, but it doesn't ruin the experience because it's still good enough to use the phone without it like ruining the experience where you're like super worried about battery. It's not that bad. Let's just put it that way. It's mild. It gets the job done. But if they can improve battery technology and contain or sustain this super thin build or kind of keep it thinner in the future, I think we're going to have ourselves a true winner on our hand on the evolution of this product. Or if they just drop this line and just make the Ultra super thin, we'll see. I don't know. I don't see that happening. But if they make another version of this and the battery gets bigger, that's going to be a true winner. Now, from the special feature standpoint, you can do messaging via satellite on this device. Also, you do have your self-emergency SOS, which we've talked about before. It's a great special feature. On here, you're going to get DeX. That's pretty nice. You get some advanced features. And it really just comes down to which features do you value more of those two. So it's basically a tie in that one. From an ecosystem perspective, you do have things like an Apple Watch Ultra you compare to this. You do have things like a Galaxy Watch Ultra you can compare to this, or you compare to this. You can use things like AirPods, the Mac, iPads, the Samsung tablet, Windows laptops by Samsung, Apple laptops. And I think that's the true separator for me. The Windows experience, to me, with the Android, with the Galaxy Watch Wear OS, it just, yes, they have a strong ecosystem, but it's not controlled like the same way Apple's is. So Apple's Mac is the true separator for me. In addition to that, just how all of those different platforms, they just look the same mostly. It just makes it more seamless. But Samsung to me is not really for someone who needs a seamless. A lot of people that use Samsung know how to operate and use their tech. So that's not really a deal breaker for a lot of them. Now, from a phone call quality perspective, we do have a pretty loud speaker on here. Surprisingly, even though this is very thin, this speaker can get pretty darn loud. So don't be surprised when you're like, whoa, that's a pretty good speaker. Just didn't get as loud as the 16 Pro Max. So keep that in mind. At the end of the day, though, both of these phones are going to make phone calls do that just fine. Both of them are 5G equipped, so that's very good. But this is, to me, this is more like your sleek, just beautiful, nice phone that you don't really care about having power use all the time. You're not overly addicted to the device. You'll make it through the day. You're fine. You're going to use it here and there, go about your life. It's a tool. The Samsung Ultra is a heavy user's tool, though. This one over here, a heavy user's iPhone as well. For other people, we'll get a smaller iPhone in the mix and we'll just rock out with that. I would say the S25 Edge kind of lasts similar to like a base level iPhone 16 Pro in the actual battery experience. Maybe even something like the regular 16. So in conclusion, it's a lot closer than you might think. But here in this comparison, if I had to pick one, I don't think the Edge edges out the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Maybe it will edge out the iPhone Air. We'll see later this year when we compare those. But for now, this is what's available. You also can get the Ultra as well. And it's a better phone for most people. Probably the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We have a bigger battery, better camera, more consistent software updates. While you do have super long ones there, they're just very consistent. You get the amazing beta program that's going to be coming out next week with WWDC 2025. And at the end of the day, I just feel that one extra camera and a battery improvement away from the Galaxy Edge truly, the S25 Edge truly being a true contender. But this is much better than I think when they launched the original Fold, like so to bring a super thin form factor. It's not like the sacrifices are substantial, but when the price comes down, it'll definitely be an even better option, especially if you can find it secondhand when that drops. So stay tuned for more comparisons like this. I'm going to compare this later this year to the Air, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Which one would you pick? Let me know down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick here. I'll catch you on the next one. Be sure to be well, and peace.